So in summary, we talked about non-financial planning, okay? As opposed to financial planning. They're both equally as important and both need to have the same amount of time devoted to them. What you need to do is take control now. This is the time to break out of the cocoon in your life, not to go into one, not to hibernate. So rewire, reinvent, reimagine, do something with your life. It's never too late. And probably the biggest contribution that you're going to make is by volunteering, community work, locum tenens, whatever. I'll give you a little talk about that personally. For me, when I practiced dentistry, dentistry was an absolute obsession for me. I loved dentistry. I couldn't get enough of dentistry. I took hundreds and hundreds of hours of continuing education. I taught at the Las Vegas Institute for many years. I'd go down there about 5-6 times a year, 4 days at a time. And it was my way of giving back to teaching other dentists all the new up techniques in dentistry. And I really loved that part of my career. It was a lot of fun. And about 2-3 years before I retired, my wife and I used to go to Hawaii every year in February to escape the rain and the gray days in Portland. And we're sitting there on the beach, running our toes through the warm sand and listening to the ocean crash against the shore, smelling the breezes, the ocean breezes. And I'd look over and see sitting there reading a book by Jackie Collins, some juicy novel, and Cosmopolitan magazine. And I'm sitting there reading an article on how to prepare the most perfect veneer prep known to mankind. And I'm reading how to bond it, and I'm getting all the molecules and the chemicals and all this stuff. And I looked over at her and I says, "You shouldn't be reading that trashy stuff. You should be reading something that's got more meaning to it." And she looked at me and she said, "Are you crazy? You need to get a life. There's more to life than a tooth." And I looked at her and I was going to carry this conversation on. And again, there was that cold death stare and I just let it go. And I never thought much about that. But about a year later, about a year before I retired, I came down with a disability. And I had to get out of dentistry, which was my passion. And so I had a year to prepare emotionally to get out of dentistry. Financially, I was okay. I had good disability. I was fine financially. That wasn't the issue. But I ignored it. I put it off. I would not recognize that I'm not going to be able to practice dentistry anymore. And so as a result of that, the day I sold my practice and turned the keys over to the young man that bought my practice, I went into an emotional shock. And it just wasn't for 1 or 2 days. It was for 6 months. For the only time in my life, I had to go seek counseling to get through this emotional trauma that I went through. So what I'm saying to you is, don't do what I did. Prepare yourself for this day because it's coming. And when it comes, be prepared with you and your spouse on how you're going to handle it, because I think it's very important.